great to meet you. Thank you so much for taking a minute out today. I'm looking forward to getting into the new album, so I appreciate it.
Oh, absolutely. My pleasure.
So before we get into the new album, I want to know this. 5 years ago, with this pandemic going and raging, it was changing the world, changing it for musicians, doing all kinds of things. How did you get through that period as an artist, and how has it influenced the way that you create and do things today?
Hmm. Well, that's a good question. Um, I would say during that period, I do a lot of teaching, higher ed, teach at a few different colleges. And everybody made pivots at that time, so there was a lot of online teaching. I'm very blessed with just some fantastic students, both in the college setting and then also in working with younger students. And a bunch of those families just stayed right on studying guitar, and in fact, many of them practiced more because they had more time. And some of them are playing some fantastic guitar today.
Yeah.
Because they had more time to practice back then. So there was, a lot of teaching. I think in neighboring states, Indiana, Wisconsin, I got some gig work a little bit sooner than in Illinois. But yeah, I mean, teaching was definitely a helpful thing. Probably, caused us to rethink a little bit of things like long term, how are we going to make things work? But um, yeah, that worked. It worked fine as far as, the stability of teaching and things like that. As far as like the creation of music, I feel like in general, we first started having kids in 2012. So our oldest just turned 13. And, around that time, some things shifted at home where, well, now we have some kids and we need to make sure we take care of these kids. And about the time we had kid number three, which was 2018, my wife was mostly staying at home. And so I would say, kind of from around 2013, 2014, and onward, there was a lot of focus on, okay, we just got to make sure we're, bringing enough income. So obviously, a lot of focus on teaching. As far as like creative music making, there's definitely a shift away from that. Before, I think, we had like a weekly steady in Chicago at many people do around here at Phyllis's Musical Inn, and it was a Monday night and eh, very little money involved. But and so around the time we started having kids, it's like, well, we're probably not going to be able to do Monday night at Phyllis's anymore.
Yeah.
As fun as it was, I mean, it was an amazing time, and we made some incredible music, great memories. So there've been probably more of a shift towards just private events and weddings and things like that, just because we needed to focus primarily on making money. But so that was kind of before the whole 2020 thing happened, where there's a bit of a shift away from creative music making in general. Not to say no creative music making whatsoever, but more of the focus is sustenance, and how are we going to just provide for our growing family. Um, but there's been some great opportunities along the way. And in fact, I'd say uh, this particular project, some of the music has been kind of in the works for a long time. One of the college as I taught at up until just recently was Trinity Christian College, which is in a South Chicago suburb. And there's just great opportunities to. We have Christmas concerts, and at some point they started incorporating the jazz ensemble, which I was directing, and so I would start arranging music for these Christmas concerts, and so um, that's kind of where some of the music started. I would create it with my students in mind, but then, we'd get together with friends to play some gigs, and I'd say, "Hey, why don't we play this thing together?" And we'd play it, and they'd be like, "Wow, that was kind of cool." And beyond that, there's also opportunities to just put together programs of music. So I'd probably do like one or two creative projects throughout a year, and some of the music got composed or arranged for like some of those, like Of the Father's Love Begotten, which is on the new disc. We played that at a jazz night at Trinity. They'd usually bring in a professional group, and then also the jazz ensemble would just play a short thing at the beginning. And that particular tune, it was just one that I had heard and really loved, and I thought, well, that's just a really cool sounding tune, and I thought I would love to do something with that. So Uh, yeah, I can't remember. That might have been around 2015, 2016, maybe. And made that arrangement. It was originally performed with a quartet, no bass player, but all the players on the record, minus the bass player, were on it. We played it with a Rhodes, um, maybe sort of in the vein of Chris Potter Underground was kind of the idea, perhaps. But we played it and it was really cool. And I had been thinking for years, oh, I'd love to record that. I'd love to record that. That was really nice. I liked that a lot. And it wasn't until recently, as I've, kind of built out more of the repertoire, where it occurred to me that that hymn, which I hadn't really considered, is actually it's an Advent hymn. It belongs in the period of Advent, and I realized, hey, wait a second, I've got like a whole bunch of stuff that actually sort of fits this time frame. So that is to say that there were some creative things going on here and there, and some of the music for this project kind of came about through some of those situations, like Trinity. A lot of the music was written for that. Also, teaching at Wheaton, there's some music that was written. For example, the Let All Mortal Flesh Keep Silence. That was originally arranged as let's see, I think it was for five guitars, well, five guitar parts. I teach in the Suzuki program at Wheaton College. They've got a community music program. And so every year again, we're kind of putting together music around Christmas because that's kind of what you do around Christian colleges. It's sort of the norm. And again, Let All Mortal Flesh Keep Silence. That particular tune, goes back 17th century, so it's maybe not as old as some of the other stuff, but it's just something that we heard around church, and I just thought that's a beautiful melody. It's just I love to do something with it once again. And so I originally arranged it for, five guitar parts. And I guess, efficient, it's being a musician is kind of a crazy thing. So many of us do a million things, which is obviously an exaggeration, but that's really what it feels like sometimes. So, for me, several part-time teaching jobs, I'm freelance performing. um, Direct a small jazz program at a community music school, run a Suzuki summer institute, just a lot of things that we do. And so you learn some efficiencies when you're like going, full force at all times. And so we took that guitar quintet arrangement and then we did it for jazz ensemble at Trinity because like, hey, I'll score this for alto saxophone, score this for piano, kind of move the parts around a little bit. So we did that, and it was another one of those things. I brought it to my friends, and said, hey, let's play this, and we played it, and it was pretty cool. So um, yeah, so there's some creative things along the way like that. But uh, I mean, 2020, yeah, there was not as much creative music making that happened. Um, but yeah.
Good deal. I can tell the paintings back there look like the vibe that's on the cover.
Oh yes, absolutely. Yeah. So the one on the right is actually the album cover. Uh so Lou, we go back a long way. I'd say he's got a pretty decent reputation in Chicago. Uh and I might argue he's sort of the one that sort of pioneered this idea of live documentary painting.
Yeah.
There's a bunch of people that do it now in Chicago, but Lou is really the one that was everywhere. Like back in, say, 20, I don't know exactly when he got to Chicago from New York, but maybe around 2010, 2011, he was just everywhere. If there was a jazz festival, he was there. And so he kind of got that whole thing started. The painting on the left is, one of his live documentary paintings. Let's see, it's marked as the West Chicago Art Festival in 2019. So that was just a solo guitar gig I did with him. I think it might have been at Kindred Coffee Roasters in West Chicago. Uh, Nice little place. And I don't know, I feel like that one's maybe a little unique in some of the brushwork compared to other things that I've seen, but so Lou and I do go back a really long way, and for years he had been saying, "Hey, we've got to do something." In particular, he might have said, "We got to do something at Wheaton College," and it never came up. Actually, around 2020, I was trying to like push. They had like some kind of anniversary, and they're opening a new music building, and I was trying to do a push to say, hey, can we get Lou over here and do some music? And it didn't work out. But actually, this past last December, I did get the chance to do something at Wheaton College with Lou, um, and that he painted at that. It was actually it's on the disc, so that's the disc. Probably isn't really easy to see. Maybe the color's a little off, but he live painted this concert where we played a bunch of my Advent stuff as well as some of the Christmas book. And the it was finally the moment. Like, I've been showing these arrangements to some of the guys, and we'd play them, and they'd say, "This is really cool. We should play this some more. We should." And so we finally had our chance to actually rehearse the music and put together a whole program, and it was a lot of fun. I'm really privileged to get to work with musicians like the guys on the record, and um, we had a lot of fun. It went well. Lou painted, made that beautiful piece of work there. And that was sort of the moment where we're like, okay, we really got to record. So that's kind of what made it happen, I guess. But so when we did record, um, you're thinking about, okay, where are we going to get it mixed and mastered? How are we going to do the design on this stuff? And there's a lot of expenses that go into putting together a project like this. Um, but when I thought about the design, I thought it's really got to have something from Lewis on it. And so we I commissioned him to do a painting for the album for the cover. And so he did this thing over here on the right. And you can kind of see it's got a little bit of an Advent theme with, some of the more purples and blues. There's some candles in there you can kind of make out. On the As far as I understand it, what he did, that's the actual painting, but then he loaded it into some digital software and he added a little bit of digital overlay. So if you compare the actual painting to the album cover, there's a few little jots and tittles that are added from the original painting. But yeah, Lou and I, we go back a long way, and it just seemed like there's something neat about the collaboration. Um, so I wanted to make sure to include him, and I think pretty happy with the outcome of the artwork that he produced.
So you're originally from Canada, correct?
This is correct.
So how did this journey into jazz and the guitar, how did it begin and take hold?
Okay, yeah, that's a good question. My uncle is a guitar teacher. He taught me guitar from young age, I think maybe 7. So yeah, I think maybe around middle school, I actually started to enjoy music from a listening perspective and take an interest in it personally. So we do classical guitar. We did, just chord playing. I had some opportunities in school to like play jazz band in junior high. And I could do some blues guitar solos and rock guitar solos, rock and roll blues, rock and roll and punk rock. Those were some things that I really enjoyed. High school was probably a pretty transformational time for me. In Winnipeg, there was a music teacher. I believe he has retired. I would guess he's still performing freelance. Named Jeff Kula. He had quite a reputation in Winnipeg. I think sometimes people out of his program are referred to as Kula's kids, just because he had a reputation of really inspiring musicians. And so in high school, he's the one who I think really exposed me to jazz in a different sort of a way. Um, we Kind of a fun thing that happened. He was had always been trying to get into the Essentially Ellington Festival in New York, and so when I was in his program in high school, we actually got into the Essentially Ellington. He'd been trying for years, and fun fact is we were the first band from Canada to ever get into the festival. I don't know how many other bands have gotten in since. I haven't really followed it. I know he's gone back several times. But that particular experience, just going to um, Lincoln Center and hearing other musicians and going to New York, that was pretty impactful, I think. And that kind of got me set down the road. I mean, I've always pretty much always since I played guitar, played classical guitar, and since junior high and high school, I've been playing jazz guitar. I really love both, and actually, you can hear that a bit on the record. It Before the Let All Mortal Flesh Keep Silence, there's a solo classical guitar arrangement, theme and variations on the same tune, and as I was preparing the program of music, both for the performance at Wheaton and then now for the record. There's definitely a sense of there being a need for some kind of solo classical guitar piece because, frankly, it's just such a part of what I do. Um, I honestly probably teach. I probably teach more classical guitar than I teach jazz guitar, just in the way that things have shaken out over the years. Though, of course, I do a lot of both. So it felt important to include that. Um, but yeah, I've just kind of always loved both. I think it kind of shifts, period to period when I'm focusing on more. Maybe in recent years, it's been a little more heavy on the jazz focus. Um, must have been 2023, I think. So I went to Wheaton College for my undergrad. Had a great guitar teacher there, Steve Ramsdell. Just learned so much from him. It was probably around 2023. He, just decided he was ready to let that go. It's kind of part-time, and I don't know, maybe it was getting to be a bit of a hassle. So he recommended me, and they did bring me on. So I'd been teaching in their community music program a very long time, 10 years or more, and then got invited to be guest lecturer in the conservatory there as lecturer for jazz guitar, and actually I would say that's probably why this exists because they at the conservatory they really created an environment that, in my opinion, was conducive towards faculty creativity and that yeah made a big difference. So, as I mentioned, there had been a lot of time where it's like, okay, well, how are we going to pay the bills? How are we going to take care of our kids? How are we going to keep my wife home? And it's just hustle, hustle, hustle. But just from some of the opportunities at the conservatory, we recorded the album there. Fantastic audio engineer Brian Porrick just did excellent work tracking everything. Um, so yeah, there's just been some good opportunities through the conservatory. And so as far as the history, it does go back, but that high school band director was pretty important. And I think the seeds were probably sowed pretty early of just wanting to pursue music. I think I can remember as early as like seventh grade thinking, it might be neat to be a guitar professor. That might be kind of cool. And here we are, however many years later. Maybe just draw attention to one important figure. After college, there's a guitar player in Winnipeg. His name's Larry Roy. Um, I would say maybe in Canada it's a little different, but Larry keeps a pretty low profile. My theory is that Larry is just so good and so busy. He has very little need of like self-promotion because I'm sure there's no shortage of demand because he's really just something else. But before I moved down to the States for college, I spent a little bit of time at a college in Winnipeg, which is where I grew up, and I got to study with Larry for one of those years, and that was really impactful. Larry is a very serious guitar player, um, and I'd say he's very driven and uh, intense in the good way. Like he's very passionate and really focused, and um, yeah, he just wanted to make sure I understood rhythm, especially. Like that was a really big thing for him, and he really exposed me to some great recordings that just inspired me, gave me a lot of inspiration and ideas. And I think he really helped me to grow my love for the music. So I'd really point to Larry as a pretty important figure.
So let me ask you this. What is it that gets you up every day to create this music, to evolve, to teach, all of these components that make you a part of this jazz community?
Hmm. Well, um, so I guess when I was in high school, junior high and high school, there was a period in my life where I was kind of, you could say maybe a little aimless, not really sure where I was going in life, probably making some of the wrong decisions. definitely making some of the wrong decisions. And I think when I was about 17, I started to get a sense that maybe there was a God and maybe he had different plans for my life. And the direction I was heading was the wrong direction. And some pretty significant changes happened around then, just in, the choices I was making. And I would say that really set me on a trajectory to, where I am today. And so, I mean, there's definitely ups and downs and, days where I'm just so exhausted because I'm working so much. But I think really just the sense of purpose I have that there's a bigger plan for my life than just, make money or get famous or any of those things, um, but that I feel like I have certain responsibilities and purpose, whether that's caring for our family or taking care of everybody there, or whether that's I feel tremendously privileged that I get to work with so many bright and talented students, and I feel like I have gifts in being able to help those people to achieve the most that they can, to inspire them to love music and to love to do things well. Even beyond playing music, just to inspire people to try to do the best they can at stuff. I mean, I feel a tremendous amount of purpose there. Um, and maybe just too, they're just the relationships. It's kind of crazy right now, and I'm teaching a music appreciation course that I think this semester has like 340 people in it between two different sections. So there's like, it's limited to the degree that I can really engage with everybody, but I have everybody in the class, and I can, and feel like I have this opportunity to inspire them to, how do they see the world? How do they see music? Um, so I feel like there's a lot of opportunity to really impact people in a meaningful way. And so I'd say all of those things uh, give me that drive. Sometimes you get a little tired, you get a little discouraged, but um, yeah, I think the fact that back when I was 17, my life trajectory changed gives me a lot of motivation to go and keep going.
So, what are you hoping the listener gets from Adventus? What do you want them to get from this album?
Ooh, well, I think there's one thing in the there's probably a variety of things, but there's one thing in the liner notes where, I mean, if you think about you get to November, December, there's a lot of music you hear this every year. It's like, oh, it's November and December. Like, here's Charlie Brown Christmas, which I love Charlie Brown Christmas. That's beautiful. Vince Guaraldi is an amazing musician and composer. But just think of all the different things you hear. And so I think in some ways, part of the intention is that people might have some new sounds to like experience, during November, December. Like we've heard a lot of the same things before. On this particular collection of music, there's probably a couple things that maybe people are more familiar with. O Come Emmanuel. I'd have a hard time. I feel like I'd have a hard time finding someone who hasn't heard that before. Maybe the angel Gabriel from Heaven Came is a little bit more familiar, but some of it is, well, frankly, The King Shall Come. I didn't even know that existed until like November of last year. So, I'm guessing there's probably other people out there that haven't heard that before. Um, Gaudete, that's a maybe more famous one, but it's a really old song, and not a lot of people hear that. Of the Father's Love Begotten. I didn't even realize that was, an Advent song until years after I had first heard it and already arranged it. So I think maybe part of the desire is, maybe we'll have some new interesting music to listen to, during the holiday season. So I'd say that's, maybe one of the ideas.
So, at the end of the day, everyone has a perception of you. Family, friends, fans, students, everyone that knows you, but you run the show. What's your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
Hmm. Um, well, I mean, I think at the end of the day, um, I get a lot of things wrong. There's a lot of things where I drop the ball, or it doesn't go quite the way I expect it to go or hope for it to go. But at the end of the day, I'd say I'm a sinner, but I'm saved by grace, and um, that's really what keeps me going. So I think that's probably what comes to mind.
So if anybody wants to pick up a copy of the album that will best benefit you, catch you live, any of the other good business in your world, where do they go?
So that'd be Kevin Brown Guitar is probably the homepage. It needs a little bit of work, which we'll get pretty soon. There is a Bandcamp page for the album. It's not hard to find. Kevin Brown Adventus Bandcamp. It'll be there. So that's probably right now where to go.
Excellent. So thank you, man. Thank you so much for taking a minute out. Best of luck with the album. Best of luck with everything. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, I really appreciate you taking the time to check it out, and I'm excited to see what people think as they get to hear it.